Okay, welcome to our Careers in FM series. I'm Michelle Connolly, here today representing the IWFM Veterans in FM Committee. It's great to welcome Joe Lyon, Operations Director of Thermatic Technical FM. Good morning,
Hello.
Joe. Thanks for
Good
joining
morning.
us today. Joe, you spent 14 years in the RAF, so it'd be really great to start by hearing about your own career journey. I know you worked for a project-based organisation prior to coming through to FM, so it'd be interesting to hear how that experience helped your transition and the move through to FM as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, yeah, quite right. I spent 14 years in the Royal Air Force. I joined up at the tender age of 16, straight from school. Transitioned through basic training, and I started out my apprenticeship as an aircraft engineer, with a specialism in weapons engineering. So I worked with the Harriers. We worked in the mobilisation through Afghanistan. And then over time, I moved on to the Typhoon. So we worked for the weapons evaluation unit for the Typhoon, and then support units for the Typhoon. Did various tours outside of aircraft engineering. So I worked in fields like EOD, and then supply as well. And then towards the end of my career, I left the engineering space, and moved into air traffic control, where I worked in aviation safety for a couple of years. And then I finished in the Air Force, so I joined up in 2003. It was actually yesterday, so it was the 12th of February 2003 I joined up. So yeah, so 22 years to the day yesterday. And I left on my 30th birthday, so I did 14 years.
It's a long time.
And I went. It is. I loved it. I enjoyed every minute of it, and it taught me a lot. Certainly made me into the person I am today. Gave me a good grounding for transitioning into the civilian world. So yeah, when I left, I joined. It was a maintenance service provider, project-based maintenance service provider within the water industry was where I joined originally. So I went as a site manager, a team leader essentially for field-based engineers that were providing maintenance service packages for the water treatment industry. So United Utilities, Yorkshire Water, Severn Trent, and such like.
Yeah.
Very quickly within that business, we grew. We developed the business. We started creating a more rounded offering for the water industry. So we diversified away from sort of heavy mechanical equipment and machinery into it wasn't necessarily sort of PPM style work, but it was preventative maintenance on that industry.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we kind of introduced a model which similar to FM, which didn't really exist in that industry. I was there from 2016 to late 2022, so I was there for about 6 years.
Yeah.
And then at the start of 2023, I left there and joined Thermatic Technical as the project director, head of projects, and that's where I really started my FM specific journey in the built environment. You know, before it was kind of maintenance providing in water treatment industry, but this was now in the FM industry, for the built environment. Yeah, and I've been here since then, really, since early 23, and moved, driven and grown the projects division, and then moved across as the operations director, where I'm leading a team of 100 plus engineers.
Wow.
You know, 60 plus office staff in a nationwide provider. So yeah, it's the journey's been fast paced.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll talk definitely a bit more about thematic, but be interesting to, as you're talking about that transition, just understand a little bit about the sort of skills and experiences you think from your military service that you found most valuable coming through into FM.
Yeah, so FM is a funny industry. Everybody knows each other, and everybody operates on two sides of the fence: a client side and a subcontractor side. So for me, one of the biggest skills really is that collaboration. Is striking up a relationship with people.
Yeah.
You know, people first, meet the people, create that relationship, and remove the transactional effects, because we didn't have a transactional relationship in the military. It was camaraderie. It was about the people. You knew that yes, we were trained, and yes, we had skills, and yes, we had a job to do, but we did it as a collective. regardless of who we were and who you were working with. So I was in the Air Force, but I spent a lot of time working with the Army and with the Royal Marines and with the Royal Navy. And the badge and the cap badge didn't matter because we had a job to do.
You're a team.
So bringing that mentality, bringing that mentality forward goes a long way, because there are some people that are still very transactional in their approach to FM.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I always say, I think coming through myself from outside of FM, from another industry, I've always found it a very sort of friendly and helpful sector. You know, so much about relationships, and as you say, you know, very, very important bringing that through from the military. So it'd be great to hear a little bit more about Thermatic, actually, and the type of services you provide. And as an SME, how do you look to differentiate yourselves in the market with, you know, some of the bigger service providers as well?
It's an interesting question, that, because we've just been through our vision, mission and values rework piece, where we've readdressed them, because they were arguably relatively outdated and didn't reflect the business that we are today. So our vision is to be the difference within the facilities management sector. That is our vision. So it's a little bit left field, it's a little bit open to interpretation, but that's kind of the point, so we can apply that to the different people in the business, because FM isn't just about technical people. FM is about procurement. FM is you know, there's many arms and many avenues to FM. So we want to be the difference, and in order to be that difference, we are leading the charge, I feel, in people. We are investing in our people. We are trusting our people. We are building teams of people that attract other people into the business, because they know they can come here at any level and be invested in and progress their career within this business. And also, what we're finding is if we invest a lot of time and energy into people, and then an individual might actually reach a natural ceiling within the business. If they then want to progress their career further outside of Thermatic, we'll support that.
You know, we will support that in the industry generally.
Exactly.
Which is great.
So, and within the engineering field, we're doing the same as well. So we understand that there's a labour gap coming within the engineering market, you know, and it's gonna creep up on us, but it's gonna be here very quickly. So we're investing quite heavily in the apprenticeship scheme this year. And we want to try and create a network of engineers in the labour market that know Thermatic to be a positive place, not just people that work at Thermatic. We want the engineers to be spreading the word and you know, sharing what we're trying to achieve as a business. So people, the investment in people is kind of what we're trying to focus on to be our differentiator, really.
And can you just talk a little bit about, there'll be people watching this, you know, service leavers who don't have a full understanding yet of what the FM sector is, so the sorts of services you provide as a business. You just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so Thermatic Technical is it's essentially a hard FM service provider. We have a bias within the M&E, so mechanical and electrical, and HVAC space. So that is our bread and butter, so to speak, is HVAC and mechanical and electrical. We do have contracts, however, that have a bit more of a broad spectrum of requirements. Like I say, hard FM. So hard FM includes building fabrics and such like, and drainage and what have you. Now we have in-house resource to deliver those. Like we recently acquired a drainage business to add to that offering. So with regards to service leavers, looking at what opportunities may be out there for SMEs or even, you know, for bigger corporations as well, I wouldn't get hung up on what you don't have. So a lot of people get hung up on thinking, well, I'm not an air conditioning engineer, so I can't enter the HVAC space. You can. You know, you can enter it at a different level. You can enter it in terms of contract management, you can enter it in terms of procurement, you can enter it in terms of planning and scheduling. And the FM industry is big enough and vast enough and well connected enough for you to then determine your career path from that point. It doesn't have to start at a specific skill. It just has to start with you applying yourself in the field, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk to a lot of service leavers who you know, struggle to understand that, how the skills and the training that they've done translates. So it's really great to, you know, share that message that actually there's a progression, and you know, help to move through from, you know, the training they've had in the military to where you can go in FM. So that probably leads us on quite nicely to what advice would you give to service leavers and veterans who are interested in pursuing a career in FM, and specifically things like, you know, any certifications or training programs or networking strategies that you found particularly helpful yourself?
Yeah, so it's a difficult area to approach, I think, when you're in that situation in the moment. So when I left the military, I was very unsupported. Kind of had to just work it out, really. Now that doesn't work for everybody, because depending on your experience in the military, you've probably gone from an environment where you've been 100% supported every moment of every day, to being in a situation where actually you've got very little support, very little direction, and you don't know where you want to go.
Yes.
So what I'd say in terms of advice really is when you're within that sort of 18-month period approach to leaving the military, is really start to build a network. And if it's going to be FM, the sort of industry that you choose, I think that's a great choice first and foremost, because it is so vast. You are not pigeonholing yourself into a particular area. Start to reach out, because there are lots of people in the industry like myself and like others that will help for free. Who are happy to have a 10-minute phone call and give a bit of guidance and a bit of advice and point you in certain directions, but more importantly, point you at other people. If I don't know the answer, I'll probably know someone that can help, or know someone that knows someone that can help. So building that network, and LinkedIn is a very powerful tool that people don't truly understand.
Agree, yes.
So if people can build that LinkedIn profile, demilitarize the LinkedIn profile as well. So I keep saying this to people when I have them on a call, a transition type call. It's what you did in the military as a team leader is fantastic, and organising, you know, patrols, etc. is great, but you need to try and translate that into a civilian business context.
Yes, yeah.
So work on that translation on your CV, work on that translation on your LinkedIn profile, and then speak to people, build that network.
Yeah, and it's probably, like you say, it's about getting a bit of help with that, isn't it? Translating those things, because I think it's a good point. The other thing we sometimes find is that people don't always want to share that military background, and actually I don't think you should be afraid of that at all. You know, I think that is a positive. We do need, you know, the resilience, the leadership skills, all the things that a lot of people have learnt in the military. But yeah, it's just translating that, as you say. That's important.
I always tell people it should be an important part of you, but it shouldn't be 100% of you.
Yeah, good advice. So you've touched a little bit on where you see some of the recruitment challenges being for our sector on the engineering side. Be good to explore that a little bit more. You know, diversifying and opening up the talent pool to veterans and service leavers, and obviously emerging talent is important. So it'd be great to hear a little bit about your take on that.
Yeah, so we are involved in the Covenant as well. So we do have an agenda. I've actually set up an internal initiative of the business called Operation Pathway, where we create a bit of a pathway for service leavers. We target service leavers, and again, we have no skilled agenda behind that, in terms of we're not looking for specific skill sets, as in an air conditioning engineer, as an example. We would never hang that as the carrot for the service leaver. It would be more a case of, how can we help you leave the military, transition into the FM workspace, then whatever your preference is at the end of that, will help facilitate. So we're quite active in that space, and done a little bit of work with the Career Transition Workshop and done a little bit of work with, we went down to a workshop down at Bry's last year where we had a stall and a stand and a lot of people going through the resettlement piece.
Yes,
It was a bit of a fair type thing, so that was good. We got a lot of traction with it. What we find is difficult, and I think with service leavers, and myself was included that at the time, is we don't understand what an SME is and where the standing of an SME is in the industry. We feel attracted, or I felt attracted to the CBREs, to the Mighties, to the Vinches, to the Mace, people like that, because it just felt a bit more secure, felt a bit more in line with what I was used to and what the military provided. An SME feels a little bit more volatile, but what I would say to that is an SME is, in my opinion, wholly more suited to a service leaver because it's more agile, because you get quick decisions, you get direct leadership. People can get around you and support you a lot closer. You can have those close conversations. So I wouldn't bypass an SME. If an SME was present, I'd always have that conversation to try and truly understand what that looks like versus a bigger corporation.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and trends wise, where do you see the future of FM, facilities management and workplace in 2025 and beyond, really? Why is it an exciting career to consider?
It's very exciting because it's at the forefront of everything now with the net zero initiatives. We're doing a bit of work with SIBSI in terms of decarbonisation plans. So like I say, that the scope within FM is it's diversifying away from maintaining our building. It's a lot more than that now. It's a lot more about thinking about the building. How can the building become more efficient and become smarter? How can we understand the building more? And in new builds, so if you were to ever get involved in new build, it's so exciting to see how quickly the technology is changing. In terms of like air source heat pumps, underfloor heating, solar, photovoltaic. You've got BMS, which is like building management systems, intelligent buildings being built that are off grid, relatively off grid, and they can talk. And with the integration of AI, the buildings can talk. So that AI digital transformation space within FM is going to explode as soon as the technology gets to where we want it to be. The opportunities are going to be vast to be involved in that progression.
Yeah, and I think you've got now people coming out at all different phases, haven't you? Service leavers. I guess maybe people used to stay in the forces for a lot longer, and perhaps now, you may have some people coming out who've been in there. You were in there a long time, I think, with 14 years, but so some may be coming out after a few years of service. So great points. Is there anything else, Joe, that we haven't covered that you think is important to share?
I think one of the main things is really be confident. Yeah, for someone that's leaving the military, is be confident, because the military standing and the military background, no matter how long, whether it's 12 months or 12 years or 22 years, it's arguably irrelevant in terms of how long you did, because the fact that you've been in the military, it puts you on a little bit of a pedestal within the industry, and people will look at you because of that. So you've already got the hook, you've already got one step ahead. What you then need to do is translate that into what do these people on the other end of the screen or the other end of the phone want to hear. How can I translate what I did into what these people want to hear? So for example, like if someone picks up a job description, read the job description and answer the job description in terms of translation of transferable skills. And it's with the military experience, you're exposed to so much more than what a lot of people are. So it's tapping into that. So it's having the confidence in yourself to back yourself. Yeah. Thank you for
saying that, because I think a lot of the service leavers that we talk to, that is where the confidence and is slightly lacking sometimes. They don't always understand the strength of their skills and what they have actually learned in the military. So yeah, great points. Thank you so much, Joe, for sharing all of that with me this morning. I've enjoyed hearing about your journey in Thermatic FM. So yeah, thanks for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michelle. Cheers.